So I had a pretty long video planned out, but I'm pretty sure it's better to split it up into two distinct uploads. Both topics are really important, and this way it's probably just a little bit easier to absorb the information. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about what I consider to be the Chaos Plan. And then after this, the next video, is going to be regarding an event held by the Club of Rome. And you are not going to believe what they've been talking about. I can't wait for you to see that one and hear what you think, because man, it is wild.
Something like 1984 could actually happen. This is the direction the world is going in at the present time.
We have some breaking news now, and a woman has been arrested by Cheshire Police in relation to an inaccurate information on social media about the attacker in the Southport murders.
This is a story about Humberside Police who contacted a man called Harry Miller, I think, who had tweeted or at least retweeted and liked an offensive poem. It was a limerick, I think. Non-crime hate incidents. You had South Yorkshire Police who tweeted a number of months ago saying we were urging the public to report non-crime hate incidents. This is really troubling to me. This is straight out of Orwell. You hate to use the comparison, but it is. This police officer said to this man, we had to investigate this because we need to check you are thinking properly. We need to check your thinking. We need to check you are thinking properly.
We need to check your thinking.
In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph and self-abasement. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
It's important to keep in mind that everything we're seeing happen in the world right now is connected to a much bigger agenda. Everything from civil unrest in Europe to instability in global markets and even the war that looms over the horizon, it's all connected. They have this divided into phases. As far as I can tell, it's 2030, 2035, 2049, and 2050. Key events are supposed to take place before we hit those markers. Now we are approaching the beginning of the end of the 2030 phase. And it is pretty crazy right now, but we're going to make it through the current chaos. You know, darkest before the dawn and all that. However, let's focus on the unrest in the UK, because it's a symptom of a much larger problem. Now I will say, before you see this video, the riots might have stopped. However, it doesn't really matter. This is not going away, and in fact will only progressively become worse as time goes on. Identity politics has fused with religious belief, and we tried to warn you, we really did. It will be perpetual and widespread, so don't be mistaken. This is not unique to Europe. They just happen to be ahead of the curve in terms of dealing with the consequences. The entire Western Hemisphere has been subjected to the same agenda of unfettered mass immigration, all sponsored by national governments, funded by billionaires, and facilitated by NGOs. And don't be naive. The powers that be fully understand the implications. This is the Chaos Plan. And the natural consequences of this will be deeply embedded in human psychology, and you can be ahead of the curve if you understand basic human nature. First, let's take a look at this post right here from Restitutor. This perfectly sums up the economic aspect, and then after that, we'll get into the social consequences. And I quote, "It will happen, not just in the UK, but all over. When you import this many people, this quickly, while simultaneously pursuing insane net zero degrowth economic policies, well, you create scarcity. Scarcity beyond basic necessities. If you enforce degrowth policies with a rapidly growing population, you quite obviously increase the demand for limited resources like food, water, and energy. As a consequence, you're going to see higher and higher demand for basic needs like housing, healthcare, and education. You are going to have immense economic strain, a strain on public finances, social services, transport, infrastructure, and welfare. You'll see more and more social unrest, protests, and riots among the instability. You're going to see a decline in living standards, sanitation, and maybe even a reliable water supply. Everything is going to be affected. It's the Cloward-Piven strategy. Now, if you don't know, the Cloward-Piven strategy aims to facilitate a political crisis by overloading the welfare system via an increase in welfare claims, forcing the creation of a universal basic income. And we can see that playing out in real time. We're just in the beginning phase though. Just remember, they aren't planning on being done with this quote-unquote transition until at least 2050. They are intentionally creating a powder keg to get this done, and it's already been lit. Now, the interesting thing to me is that every aspect of this agenda can hit us in different forms. It's a multi-pronged attack, flanking the people from all sides. While we just discussed the economic incentive for the chaos, a method of persuasion for convincing people to give up freedom for financial servitude, well, let's get into the other aspect of control, violence. And we're going to use the UK as an example. But again, I'll reiterate, it's the same plan all over the West. They are following a simple course of action, a simple tactic. Create the chaos, exploit the chaos, and then offer the solution, when the solution was always the goal. So, in the UK, escalation seems to be clearly the point. It's the only thing that makes sense, really. The authorities have made inflammatory statement after inflammatory statement, and at the same time, entirely ignored the grievances of their own population. Not exactly a formula for social cohesion. The main sticking point, though, is the use of unequal force. They have jumped the ship and taken thought crimes to a whole new level, going after people for social media posts rather than the people in the streets actually committing violence. And it all comes down to basic human psychology and behavior. If you target a domestic population with unequal force compared to non-citizens, well, quite obviously, it's only going to cement the notion that the government is actually against their own people, therefore leading to more and more violence and distrust. Chaos leads to chaos, and that's seemingly exactly what they want. Yes, that's right, thought crimes have become a top priority. It's draconian and dystopian.
In Russia last year, 400 people were arrested for things that they said on social media. 400 people in Russia. Obviously, this country is very different. How many people do you think were arrested in Britain for things they said on social media last year?
Go on.
Take a guess.
I have no idea.
3,300.
Really? Arrested for what they'd said on social media?
In terms of cracking down on thought police and cracking down on bad tweets and things like that. But the fact that they're comfortable with finding people who've said something that they disagree with and putting them in a fucking cage in England in 2024 is really wild.
The director of public prosecutions outright said that they have dedicated teams of police scouring social media for any material against immigration, and then dispatching police to arrest them.
The offence of incitement to racial hatred involves publishing or distributing material which is insulting or abusive, which is intended to or likely to start racial hatred. So if you retweet that, then you're republishing that, and then potentially you're committing that offence. And we do have dedicated police officers who are scouring social media. Their job is to look for this material and then follow up with identification arrests and so forth. So it's a really, really serious. People might think they're not doing anything harmful. They are, and the consequences will be visited upon them.
They put some dude in jail for a social media post that had 9 likes. 9. Hardly whipping up a frenzy, you know what I mean? They even sent out a press release claiming influencers need to know they are not safe and there's nowhere to hide. Even claiming they'll try to extradite Americans and put them in jail. Yeah, good luck with that. However, I will say the Democrat Party would probably oblige them and ship off their own citizens to the British Gulag without hesitation, so don't be mistaken about that. They're all cut from the same tyrannical cloth. Ominous indeed. To be honest, it's crazy to me that this mentality even exists. And of course, as you know, this mentality exists in the United States too. Now, typically, I don't take these polls too seriously. Most of the time their methodology is entirely flawed, but check this out. There was a recent poll, and apparently we live amongst absolute morons. And I quote, "Evidently, 1 out of every 2 Americans wishes they had fewer civil liberties." The head of the research team said this, and I quote again, "Many of them reject the right to assemble. They reject the right to have a free press and to petition their own government. This is a dictator's fantasy," end of quote. And yes it is. He's not wrong about that. So, if we take that poll at face value, then the American public has been psyoped into oblivion. Their brains no longer function, no foresight, and no critical thinking. However, it's more than likely along party lines. The American left have lost their minds. And I do not care what excuse they give. Hate speech, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, it doesn't matter how they phrase it. Without free speech, you are not free, period. I mean, isn't it crazy that we're even having this conversation in the first place? There's really people out there who believe some bougie prick in a suit should be able to tell grown-ass adults what they can and cannot say. It truly blows my mind. I just can't relate. I can't even put myself in the headspace to try to understand that perspective. It's insane. Anyway, let's continue. Now, this chaos plan is happening all over the world, albeit with different iterations of tactics. They have the same goal in mind. Social chaos allows for authoritarian rule. If you create a bad enough situation, some people will even beg for the authoritarianism. A large part of the world's population would trade freedom for some semblance of security, even under false pretenses. It's just how that works. The powers that be know this. They have studied it, written papers about it. The politics of fear. It's a powerful thing. It's funny to me, they have already tried pushing through their solution, which is, of course, mass surveillance networks and facial recognition throughout the entire country. In fact, Tony Blair is out here shilling for digital ID again, which happens to be the foundation for the entire surveillance network. Digital ID is what connects your every action to the government's prying eyes.
An analysis on digital ID, which is an essential part of a modern digital infrastructure, could yield benefits not only for ease of interaction with government, but for the public finances. Though we have a little work of persuasion to do here, it has to be said.
Yeah, did you hear that last part? We have some persuading left to do, and then he laughs. Well, what you're seeing happen right now, the chaos and dissolving the social contract, that's the method of persuasion. Simply put, as I stated before, create the chaos, exploit the chaos, and then offer the solution. It's the same exact reason they have overhauled the judicial system in the United States, too. A society propped up on 2 tiers of justice inevitably falls into disarray. 2-tier justice and unequal application of the law erodes trust faster than anything else. It's kind of like, psychological arson. The implications of it spread like wildfire. The only way people respect law and order is if it's equally distributed and fair. Do you believe the people running things don't understand that? Of course they do. It's a twist on anarcho-tyranny. Now the chaos might die down for a little while, but it's not going to go away until there's balance within the system. And that's exactly what they're betting on. We've talked about this many times. Immigration policies and allowing crime to run rampant puts pressure on the populace. One of the so-called benefits of anarcho-tyranny is that the populace becomes scared, weary, or uncertain, and that extends from the violence in the streets to the reaction from the state. It all creates fear, and thus makes people easier to control and easier to manipulate. Another benefit seems to be that while everyone is looking over their shoulder, a bit on edge, combined with the economic pressures we talked about, well, people are more focused on the basic here and now, instead of looking ahead and paying attention to the sleight-of-hand tricks being performed by the craftsmen of destruction. In the long term, the point has always been a technocratic society, and so once tension rises to an intolerable level, you slowly use that to incrementally move towards a total surveillance society. They'll say it's the only way to keep you safe, and some are going to applaud the move. Look, they all want the same thing. You're in a transitional phase to a new societal order. The powers that be, despite party affiliation, are inching their way to one conclusion: a sort of technocratic society with mass surveillance on everybody. And it's very easy to see. Whether it's immigration policy all the way to climate policy, their solutions are the same across the board. The chaos allows them the conditions to implement it. We're all being played. Now it's a strange game. The only winning move is to not play at all. So be aware and don't fall for it. The chaos plan is the Davos plan.
The young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the world economy. We penetrate the cabinets.
The change is not just happening. The change can be shaped by us. We have to prepare for a more angry world. How to prepare? Take the necessary action to create a fairer world. I see the need for a great reset.
So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
There is only one way this pandemic is going to go. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.
The next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner, and it is the climate crisis.
Our country needs a bigger reset.
We need a great reset.
Let us just ask you quickly, you have to choose now between Davos or Westminster?
Davos.
Why?
Because Westminster is too constrained. And, you know, closed and we're not having meaning. Once you get out of Westminster, whether it's Davos or anywhere else, you actually engage with people that you can see working with in the future. Westminster is just a tribal shouting place.
Are you surprised that your Prime Minister didn't show up to Davos?
Yes, I think our Prime Minister should have showed up at Davos. I absolutely do. And one of the things that's been, impressed on me since I've been here is the absence of the United Kingdom, and that's why it's really important that I'm here and that our Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves is here as a statement of intent that should there be a change of government, and I hope there will be, the United Kingdom will play its part on the global stage in a way I think it probably hasn't in recent years.
What we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.
My government will serve you. Country first, party second.
Davos or Westminster?
Davos.
Now, to finish up, I just want to show you two clips demonstrating that we're in for a wild ride this election year. The first one is of Joe Biden, who says something rather curious.
Are you confident that there will be a peaceful transfer of power in January 2025?
If Trump wins, no, I'm not confident at all. I mean, if Trump loses, I'm not confident at all.
Are you confident that there will be a peaceful transfer of power in 2025? And Joe Biden says, if Trump wins, no, I'm not confident at all. Now that's a bit of a Freudian slip right there. There's a quick camera cut and then he tries to backtrack. But he says, if Trump wins, he doesn't believe there's going to be a peaceful transfer of power. And then let's go to the second clip, because when you put these two together, it all kind of starts to make sense. So have you heard Democrat politician Jamie Raskin laying out the plan? They will burn down the entire thing to remain in power. And while the establishment does it, they'll revert to the tried and true tactics of projection and inverse of reality, claiming that everybody else is a threat to democracy, when in fact, they are the threat to democracy. The US establishment is not going to go quietly. They've been working with global leaders on this plan since the very beginning, and they won't let it slip away from them because of the will of the people, that's for sure.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means.
So yeah, you just heard it for yourself. They openly admit that the current regime is not going to respect the results of the election if Trump wins, no matter what, even if it means creating a civil war scenario. And I quote, "It's going to be up to us on January 6th, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he is disqualified, and then we need to get bodyguards for everybody in civil war conditions," end of quote. Now, even when we know this is coming, it's still a bit shocking to hear, don't you think? John Podesta probably helped them wargame this entire thing. As you might know, they wargamed civil war scenarios for the 2020 election too. We are living in some crazy, crazy times. But I'm going to leave you with this, and I quote, "I never thought it would get this bad. I never thought the establishment would take things so far. They're incinerating culture and the beauty of life. The new citizens of our world will be reduced to nothing but numbers, easily interchangeable, easily removable, and easily destroyed for disobedience," end of quote. But just keep in mind, it doesn't have to be that way. It all depends on you. So don't fall for the sleight of hand tricks being performed by the craftsmen of destruction. Once again, this is Helio Wave. If you like the content, like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video if you want to. If you're in a position to, consider subscribing on Locals, or you could use PayPal. As always, make sure you disobey those true fascistas, and yes, I do hope you have a good night.